Hey everyone, so today I wanted to talk about the working title of this video is The Problem with Self-Help. Now, I want to thank you guys for voting on the poll. I got some feedback on what video you wanted to see next, especially people who have watched my videos all the way to the end. If you voted on that, you're the kind of people that I really want to have around, but of course I'm also appreciative of your feedback. So if I do a future poll, I'd love to see you there. So the problem with self-help, it's a pretty gripping title. I know I'm aware of the clickbaity nature of it, and I don't mean to demean self-help. I'll just say that right out of the gate, but I definitely have noticed in my experience some significant problems with it that have taken really a lot of work to uproot ultimately. And many of you know from my previous videos, but I have definitely been through a radical process of self-transformation that actually started with self-help, largely starting with like reading books. I remember I was just playing a video game. I was a big video game player as a means to distract myself. And one day I died in this game that I was playing called Daisy, and I'd been playing it for like 10-20 hours on this character that I was playing, and he glitched through a wall and died. And I got rid of my PC that day because I remember just sitting there looking at my screen after having sunk 10-20 hours into this video game and thinking like, what the hell am I doing with my life? Why am I wasting so much time playing video games? And that sort of ignited the straw that broke the camel's back, that ignited a lot of like self-inquiry and going into the self-help journey, into like masculinity, men's work, and just self-help in general, reading books and things of that nature. I think that's a sort of a segue into something that is important to acknowledge with going into self-help, is that, and especially in my case, I don't think this can really not be the case, but there comes a point when a core belief sort of surfaces and bubbles up to the surface of consciousness that drives the action, that is basically saying, I'm not good enough the way that I am. So I need to read books and watch YouTube videos and do all these workshops in order to fix this broken self that I am. And I think there's part of us, and this was the case for me, that knew that it was an internal game, basically. Like there's something I need to sort of adjust and pivot and turn or kink in my experience so that I can stop basically feeling worthless, unworthy, unattractive or unappealing to people, and that can essentially receive some sort of validation that I'm not currently getting, either from others or just to be at ease within myself more. So we turn to books, we turn to YouTube, and we turn to like podcasts, and I turn to people. Like I've got all the self-help crew up here on the wall. I even drew, like we've got, Sam Harris. I mean, he's more on the spiritual side. Jordan Peterson, he was a big one for me. I think behind him is Ryan Holiday, who wrote the book, The Ego is the Enemy and stuff. And a couple others like Tim Ferriss, David Goggins, Jocko Willink, Joe Rogan, and Alan Watson. As I started getting more spiritual, it's kind of interesting looking at those pictures because it documents my self-improvement journey in a way. Like because I drew people that I admired, and I could draw a whole lot more. Like I've done like Chula Dasa, a meditation teacher, and Daniel Ingram and stuff like that. But anyway. It's despite the point. There's this really interesting pathway that self-improvement sort of led me on to get to the point where I ultimately feel like I don't really need it as much, although I don't not need it as well. I can still like self-improve, but I remember a key person that I looked up to at the time when I was really jumping into this self-improvement movement was Jordan Peterson. And just to speak really intensely to the benefits, like he helped the shit out of me. I was basically, I was just a grungy teenager going to uni, and I had a messy room, and I just didn't have many principles and routines that were guiding my daily life, other than the fact that I went to the gym. Like I was really into bodybuilding, and that sort of anchored me to some routine. And well-being, but not really. But Jordan Peterson's advice, and one that really stands out to me that I can instantly cite when I think of the self-improvement phase, is go into the unknown. Like, Jordan basically pointed me to this place that was saying, you know what, man? Although you feel miserable, you have divine value within you, and you have a lot to give to the world. And so go out and face your fears, go into the unknown, and really just get after it. And I remember just that being such a strong message for that part of me that was really just yearning to be better, who felt like he had something wrong with him, really. It's like, okay, now I have a means to actually address this issue and move forward. And I've got support. I've got the backing of someone really renowned who's moving motion in me when I'd previously been so stagnant. So Jordan's advice, like go into the unknown, was super valuable for me. But in adjunct to Jordan's advice, in addition to Jordan's advice, I was also reading all these self-help books, things like, I guess, like How to Win Friends and Influence People, maybe like Tribe of Mentors from Tim Ferriss. And you're essentially receiving the mind state that I was in was just looking out to as many places as I could to get information to fix this broken self that was Sam. So things like positive affirmations and gratitude, like these things were sort of helpful. If I could say to myself, I'd never said to myself that, you know what? I'm grateful for the human that you are. When I was saying all of these like self-improvement phrases, right? Yeah, let's go with positive affirmations. And this is the core deficiency, I believe, with the self-improvement movement. And I've already covered that the fundamental belief is that I'm not enough. But then what we're trying to do is we're trying to accrue as much information as we possibly can, and then use these beliefs and concepts to then fix ourselves. So here's an example of how something like positive affirmations can be detrimental. Let's say I went into a mirror, and here's a good exercise. If you can actually try this yourself, look right into the mirror and you say, I love you. I love myself. Now, if you try that, a lot of people can't do this. You might feel pretty squeamish. Your body basically says, hell no, I don't love myself. Basically, if you really listen to it and you drop into your body. But a lot of this self-help and the self-improvement movement would say that if you just keep saying, I love you into the mirror enough, or I am worthy of success, or I can do it, that's gonna like somehow rewire your brain over time so you actually believe that within yourself. And for me, if I tried to do that, it was totally just didn't move the needle at all. It just doesn't work, because your body is telling you, no, you don't, basically. And, I tried self-improvement affirmations for some time. I'm not going to say I committed to them like it was the most important thing, because I think some part of me knew at a deeper level that this isn't it. Like, this isn't the way. Or as another example of, like, say you're told in a self-improvement book that you need to be grateful for what you have. And these are examples. I spoke to my partner about making this video this morning, and these are some brilliant examples she came up with. So for example, if you intone that you're grateful for something, let's say, oh man, I'm really grateful for the sun providing its amazing life force energy for me to live out my life, or I'm really grateful for my partner. And then you can get into this place where you just start listing things. You just start listing things over and over. Like, I'm grateful for the grass. I'm grateful for this water bottle. I'm grateful for the fact that I have technology to record myself. And it's up here. It's up here in your head. It's heady. It's not actually felt and believed to be true. It's not intoned into your body and your whole being is grateful for something. It's just this concept that you're trying to use to fix yourself, basically, is how it feels. It's all up here. And I think the invitation in that sense is to come down into the body. Right, and this is a place that self-improvement can't really access. So I'm a big believer in accessing the body sense and connecting to the body without disregarding the head. The head stuff can still be there, but ultimately to form a bigger picture that actually that moves the needle, it's a combination of the two that partially relies on concept, but partially doesn't. So a lot of the big shifts that have actually occurred for me have just come from feeling the body. So let's use an example, and I think this will be, I'll just use the contrast of what something like feeling the body would be like versus not feeling the body. So in my case, let me just say, like, Jordan Peterson. Let's take Jordan Peterson's advice to clean your room as an example. So say you're in a self-improvement phase and you hear this advice. Okay, Jordan Peterson says that if I'm going to restore order in my life, I need to start small. So I'm going to start cleaning my room as a way to restore a bit of order into my life and get my act together. So we start doing that. We make our bed in the morning, we put away our clothes, and we feel pretty good. We're like, oh yeah, I actually feel kind of mentally clear, right? But we've already missed something. And what I'm pointing to is we miss something, that the underlying fuel for us to do that in the first place was the belief that I'm not enough. It's like, okay, I'm so broken. Right, so now I'm going to turn to self-help. Okay, Jordan's telling me to do this thing. Okay, I'm going to clean my room. That's going to fix the brokenness. And that might be subtle. And maybe someone's listening to this and like, yeah, well, no, I don't have that belief. But the belief is essentially, we don't really see it. It's kind of hard to see and I know it would have been hard for me to see that there's something wrong with me because I just really want to get away from that feeling. So, and then as soon as I turn to something like Jordan's advice, where I jump on top and it's like this superficial thing, but it actually provides relief in my experience. I'm like, wow, you know what? I just cleaned my room and I feel a little bit better. And then, but what we do is that sets up this seeking mechanism that is then looking for the next self-improvement thing that will then fix us as well. But we're not looking and going right to the bottom of the bedrock, to use like a Minecraft reference. I don't know why, but we're not going to the bedrock of what's actually that the driving force is emanating from for us to do self-improvement in the first place. And that's where dropping into the body can take us, and where things like deeper meditation or self-inquiry can take us, is into the depths of shame. So rather than going for the superficial concept, we're going right to the depth and we're making that our target. So let's use an example again, that same example of cleaning our room, but let's say that we're aware of the body sense. And we are able to use the mind in conjunction with the body sense. And so here's an example. So we're like, okay, I'm going to clean my room, but that will make me feel better. But what is my motive for that? And here's a hypothetical situation. So let's say we're doing the inquiry and we're feeling into our body. And the motive is something like, oh man, like, I just hate myself. I just hate how I'm so disorganized. And I hate that I don't feel enough. So you're feeling in the body. It's like, oh, it's in the... okay, I can feel this feeling in the shoulders as well. It's storing itself in the body. Oh, I'm not enough. Okay, wow. Okay, I can see that. Thank you for protecting me and trying to keep me safe. I'm not enough. I feel you. And then we're relinquishing that shame body, that pain, like Eckhart Tolle calls it the pain body. We're relinquishing that pain from the body. And then once that's done, we're coming from a more pure place that isn't ridden with belief in concept and shame about who we are as people, right? So then, okay, we might clean our room and we feel good, but we've actually addressed the core foundational belief. And it gets more core and foundational than that. Like, we can get into the non-duality and things like that, of non-separation and the fact that we're even a separate self in the first place. But just typically shame is a lot of the core motive behind wanting to self-improve in the first place. So if we can actually get into that, feel it in the body and relinquish it, that is where the money's at, in my opinion. And here's another example I just want to add after the fact. So when I was recording this video, I essentially had a moment where I just had this feeling of, man, what I'm saying right now is not that important. And self-help might say something along the lines of, when you feel that, man, just push through, just gung-ho, just go through it. You know, when you feel that, just keep pushing forward, keep taking action, or just think positive thoughts. You know, like, just think about how all the nice comments you've received on previous videos, or how you are inherently worthy as a human. But the careful and the subtle thing that happens, though, that we have to shift from, in my opinion, and what works for me, is just pausing. And instead of like all this self-talk that's all up here, all this like positive self-talk, for example, in my experience, that just doesn't work. Because what you're doing is you're just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. You're not actually getting to the root, the shame of like, okay, wow, I'm feeling this feeling. So then I just drop into the body and I just feel it. And I'm like, wow, yeah, you know what? I can see that. And I can see how it's sort of protecting me from something like humiliation or something, or like needing validation. Oh, the way that I sound isn't right, so I need to change it. You know, so all these things are running in the background, but until they're fully acknowledged and felt as what they are, it's that I don't think that core deficiency is ever going to go away. Just another important example I wanted to share with you guys while they're live filming this video. So in my experience as well, I just want to point out one other thing, that when I've enabled myself to feel this shame body and really relinquish itself and just let go of that belief that has kept me safe, essentially, but it's the one that I am not enough, which sets me up to basically believe that I can create myself to be enough. So in that sense, it has utility. It's helping me, right? But this I am not enough belief that so many of us have, when I've been able to come into contact with that and relinquish it from the body, essentially what it's done is it's lifted that weight off of my shoulders that I need to self-improve and I need to constantly be working towards something once I've addressed the shame, the root. And now I've noticed I can come from a place where, okay, I acknowledge the importance of like doing things like, say, cleaning my room, to use this example again. But I also see that, you know what, like, even if I have a messy room, it's not the end of the world. Like, I don't constantly need to be on edge trying to fix this broken self by doing and recruiting and employing all of these new concepts and superimposing them on my experience. So it's just feels a lot more grounded. There's a lot more peace that comes from that, and ease and love for myself, ultimately. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on self-improvement, the problem with self-improvement. So I hope it's been helpful for you, and if you relate to any of it, definitely let me know in the comments below.